Go. Welcome to Story Chats at Inspy Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
Today, we're excited to welcome Betsy St. Amant to the podcast. Betsy St. Amant Haddix is the author of over 15 inspirational romance novels and novellas. She resides in North Louisiana, and with her hero of a hubby, I can read, I promise, two total opposite young daughters, a vast collection of coffee mugs, some of which you can see behind her there, an impressive stash of pickle chips. Betsy has a BA in communications and a deep-rooted passion for seeing women restored in Christ. When she's not composing her next book or trying to prove unicorns are real, Betsy can usually be found somewhere in the vicinity of a white chocolate mocha, no whip. Welcome, Betsy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thanks. It's good to be here.
So, I have a couple questions. Pickle chips, really? Like, are we talking pickles, like, or potato chips that are flavored like pickle?
Oh, potato chips flavored with pickles.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was afraid you were going to say
that's the
that.
wrong answer.
No. I have never heard of that in Australia, and I've never seen it in Costco. So, yeah, interesting.
So that's kind of interesting because if you have a stash of them, that means that you're just sitting on them and nobody's eating them.
I just stay in them. We just keep them coming. So
it's like a revolving door thing?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Excellent. Okay. All right. And then, I mean, I don't know why you're trying to prove unicorns are real, because they obviously are. So why would you need to prove this?
Yes.
I have 4 granddaughters, so yes to unicorns.
Well, that started when my teenage daughter, a couple of years ago, we were reading, and the King James version of the Bible, there's some verses that say unicorn, speaking of different, animals back then. So it's kind of turned into a thing, like, well, technically they exist.
Yeah.
So Bible says so, can't argue.
I love it. So your new book, Tacos for Two, released this week. And rather than reading the back cover copy for everyone, I thought it might be fun for you to tell us a little bit about the book. Tell us like
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so I have the cover right here.
Woo-hoo.
I love it. This was really fun because this was my first book where we went illustrated instead of the more traditional, portrait type cover. So I really love how the colors pop, and it's just such a testimony to the story. I feel like it really picked up on the whimsy of the characters and the plot. So yeah, so Tacos for Two it was a hard one to write. I'll tell you that, because my deadline was right in the middle of all of this fun COVID stuff. So it was a challenge in new ways. It was also the second book in my contract with Revell. So that by itself was also, you kind of feel that pressure of a second book with your publisher. You want to do your best. And there was just a lot kind of stacked up on this one. So the writing process for me on the story was a little different, but I do think at the end of it, we came through and we created a really fun read. It's a kind of a rom-com, contemporary romance, but there's a big thread inspired by You've Got Mail, my favorite movie ever, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. If you haven't seen the movie, you'll still appreciate the book, but if you're a fan of You've Got Mail, it's just going to give it that extra oomph. So that was really fun to do. It was neat. I've never done anything like that before, and I really had fun.
I've told a couple people who asked me what the book was about, and I told them You've Got Mail on a taco truck.
Yes. That's funny because I've been talking about it as You've Got Mail meets Food Truck Wars.
Okay.
So yeah, you nailed it.
Very cool. So we each have questions, and Valerie drew the short straw, so she gets to go first.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I knew I had a question. That I did know. I didn't know it was the first one. Yeah. So I found it interesting that both Rory, the heroine, and Jude, the hero, start the story doing what they feel they need to do to meet expectations and carry on their family legacies. So Rory's running the food truck, the taco truck. that her aunt left her while Jude is about to take the bar exam to join his father's law firm as a full-fledged attorney, and neither of them really wants to be where they are. So can we talk about that whole thing about fulfilling family duties? Is this really a thing that rules people's lives? And how did that find its way into a story?
Sure. So, personal confession, I tend to be a people pleaser. So I was able to kind of channel that into my characters a little bit. So even though I've never felt that same burden of like family obligation that they have, I was still able to kind of connect with that and put that into the characters and make them very relatable. Their stories are kind of funny because they're enemies essentially, but they have so much in common that they don't really realize for a little while in this area. So one of them is trying to honor their family and keep up these traditions and this lifestyle and this business that, you know, has been like part of their heritage and their legacy, but it's a little bit out of guilt and obligation. Whereas the other one is trying to actually kind of get away from his family. He's trying to blaze his own trail and prove himself. So it's a different kind of burden, but still they have that high stakes, you know, that are very similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a follow on? I wasn't sure. You looked like maybe you had a
No, it just yeah, it is. They did come at it from different sides, but that outside pressure, family pressure, was very evident on both of them for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, yeah, and I was just gonna add to that. I've been seeing some early reviews and things coming in, and I do feel like people are relating to that family connection. So you had kind of said, is that a thing? Do people really feel that burden? And I think so. I think people are relating to the characters, which is always really nice. I like to write fun and romance, but my heart's desire is to connect with the readers and help them either put words to something they felt and didn't know how to put a voice to, or at least be able to empathize, and, you know, just kind of connect in that way. I want them to leave my books feeling seen, really.
That's a really good way to put it. I like that.
I thought it was very relatable. I know there definitely was pressure when I was growing up for, you know, specific paths, and it's something that I like consciously try not to do to my kids. Especially like my husband and I are both like computer nerds. And so we would love for our kids to also love math and computers. They hate them. They despise them. One is a history nerd and I despise history, but so I'm learning to love it. I'm learning, but he is a history nerd. And I'm just like, oh, of all the things, like why history? And the other is just into nature and animals, which again, I have a t-shirt that says indoorsy because that's me. So, but I'm trying not to foist that like STEM pressure onto them. So I think it's almost universal that parents either do or try not to. So yeah. It was good.
Yeah,
I like that part. All right, Narelle.
Okay, well, my question relates to tacos because I love foodie books, and so this is such a fun book for me to read. So as an Aussie, I'm fascinated by the difference between traditional Mexican and Tex-Mex. So I've been told that in Australia, most Mexican places here are not traditional Mexican. No. I've been told this by Americans, so I believe that to be true. So so I'm interested in talking about that. And I mean, the cooking scenes are just so much fun. And the other thing I always find interesting is that we call ingredients by different names in Australia. So what you're calling cilantro, if I've said that correctly, we call coriander. So I sit there and do this translation thing as I read cooking books as well. Yes, which is fun. So, and the other thing that I find interesting is with cilantro or coriander, I tend to associate that with Asian food, with Thai food or Indian food, for example, rather than Mexican as well. So I thought, let's talk about the tacos and you can educate the Aussie.
Okay, that's so interesting. I had no idea. So here, cilantro is definitely more, I mean, it can cross over into different foods, but I feel like the bulk of it tends to go Mexican. I love it. I'm obsessed with cilantro. And of course, everyone else in my family hates it. They say it tastes like soap.
It does.
Which is like a thing. That's a scientific thing. There's like a gene that does that. So anytime I cook Mexican, I have to cut me up a whole little separate bowl of cilantro and just sprinkle it on my own taco. But that's more for me, so it's fine. But yeah, so in the story, I have Jude and Rory as opposites in this area too. One of them loves it, one of them hates it. Rory's coworker that works in the truck with her jokes about getting her a cilantro candle just to torment her, and those are a real thing too. So yeah, I actually have one. I haven't burned it. It was given to me more as a joke as well, so that made its way into the story. But yeah, so Tex-Mex versus true authentic Mexican food, that's kind of a thing here. I'm in Shreveport, Louisiana, which is very northwest Louisiana, practically Texas. So we kind of get a little bit of both in this area, and people have their favorites, and there's battles, you either like one or don't like one. You better respect the difference. It's just kind of a fun cultural thing in this area. So I was really careful when I did create those recipes and created each of the two different Mexican food trucks to know what are they cooking, which way are they going with it. I had to really do my research to avoid hate mail.
That's excellent.
Wow, that's fascinating. So I asked that question. I had no idea that was a thing. So it was really interesting. Yeah, to know the difference. So did you have a favorite recipe in the book personally?
Well, I actually had to Google when I was writing how to make tamales, because there's a big scene in the book with them making tamales and that being part of the food lineup. And I had no idea how to do that, especially authentically, from scratch. And so my search history in my Google field for weeks was just nothing but all these different authentic Mexican recipes. So I learned a lot. I did not try any of them. I just learned enough to put that into the book. My daughter is actually the chef around here. She is such a good cook. And she'll look at me and I'll say, hey, we're having chicken spaghetti tonight. And she'll kind of side eye me and be like, you want me to cook the chicken? And I'm like, yeah, you probably should. So I boil noodles really well, but that's about it. So, yeah, it's kind of funny.
It's a life skill. You need to teach your children to cook, and then they'll cook for you forever.
Yes, and I'm not even teaching her. She's teaching herself.
That doesn't work. My kids grew up and moved out of the house, and now they cook for their own families. I'm sorry. There's a flaw in your system there, Narelle. Sorry.
I haven't got to that stage yet. I still have everyone at home. But anyway, so just for the record, I love cilantro. I have grown coriander in the garden at various times. We're about to, when we can finally get into a garden store, everything's in lockdown still here at the moment. I'm planning to go get some herbs, and I'll definitely get cilantro as one of the herbs that we grow. Yes, because I love it.
It's interesting that you call it coriander, because my understanding always has been that cilantro is the leaves and coriander is the seed.
Yeah, I would agree.
So they are, in my head, they're related, but they're not the same thing. One of them is the seeds that you can buy and grind up and sprinkle on food. And then the other is leaves like parsley that don't taste like parsley.
Oh,
I do like I have a jar of coriander, which is a ground, a ground thing, seeds that were ground. And I do enjoy using that, but I dislike cilantro heavily.
Yeah, I don't mind a little sprinkle here and there, but doused in it is like, no, thank you.
I had this Indian salad the other day that was very heavy on the cilantro. It was beautiful. I love it. I could just sit there and eat the leaves. I'm just obviously I don't have the gene that
we've got Narelle swooning now.
We do, all over cilantro. Who knew? Not your hero who won her over. It's the cilantro.
Right. Cilantro is the real hero of the story.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
That's funny.
Okay, now I think it's Val's up, isn't she?
No,
for the next
she
one?
went
I'm
already.
done.
Oh no.
Unless you have
okay.
another one. No.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I'm sure we could find things to talk about, but
Well, I
that was-
still have my question.
Oh, that's right. We're up to yes.
We're up
I'm
to
so
me.
confused.
So you touched already on the you've got mail part, which was something I was going to ask if that was intentional, and it was, so yay. But so we'll go to the other sort of absolutely completely unrelated aspect that I was also curious about is what would be the one thing or the two things spiritually that you would really want a reader to take away from the story?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, let me think. I think, okay, yes. And it is kind of twofold. So this story, compared to some of my others, is a little lighter on the faith thread. I guess you could say it's more subtle. But I would say that its main theme is forgiveness.
Yeah.
So there's forgiveness and kind of a second chance opportunity, not only between the hero and heroine, but also between them and different family members. They both have sort of dysfunctional family relationships and dynamics, some more than others, especially the poor hero. But yeah, so there's just a lot of opportunity for their personal individual growth outside of the romantic relationship, which was a lot, I think, stronger in this novel than in my past ones.
Okay.
So that was really interesting to write. I didn't really set out to do that. It developed on its own, which is always neat when that works, you know. So I would say I really would love for readers to just connect with that element of forgiveness. And maybe there's someone in their extended family that they're a little estranged from. I would be honored if this book could maybe have them consider reconciliation or, you know, just something along those lines. Yeah. But then secondly, kind of back what we were talking about before about the people pleasing, you know, family obligation element. I feel like there's a spiritual element to that, in the sense of, you know, being true to who you are and what God has called you to as a Christian, but, you know, with truth and love, and, you know, kind of taking your own path and obeying the Lord's will for your life, but in a way that still honors your family. And we can do that. But I think today, so many people, I think especially women, guilty, get so caught up in that sense of should. You know, I should be doing this, even though the Lord's given me this passion, I should be doing this instead. And a lot of times no one really expects that of them. It's just it's just the lie in their own head, you know, that they're believing and holding them back. Yeah. So I would say, along with the forgiveness element, the spiritual theme would be just kind of forging your own path, but not in that prideful, rebellious way, but in the, this is what the Lord's called me to, and I'm going to do his will kind of way. So I would love for readers to take that away from the story.
That's fantastic. I love that. Cool. All right. So that brings us to the this and that portion of our author interview, wherein you are put even more on the hot seat. And we will give you two choices, this and that. And just we're not, I mean, you're welcome to explain your choices. There's no wrong answer. Just sort of go with your gut.
Well, it depends on whether the question has to do with cilantro or not, maybe.
True. So maybe there are some wrong answers in there. Sorry. But Valerie, you want to go first?
Sure. Tacos or pizza?
Tacos.
I assume that that's the correct answer.
Narelle?
Okay, so food truck date where you're outdoors on a summer evening, or a posh restaurant with 5 courses and silver service and all the trimmings?
Ooh. I'd say the food truck outside, less pressure when it's casual, you know.
True. All right. So I think I probably already know the answer, but You've Got Mail or Sleepless in Seattle?
You've Got Mail. Oh, You've Got Mail. We could have a whole nother podcast on my thoughts on Sleepless in Seattle. Like, really?
Share two of them, just two.
Okay.
Because I'm desperately curious.
Okay. I feel robbed when I watch that movie, because the whole movie, they're not together.
Okay.
There's literally no interaction.
That's true.
And then there's the super sweet ending, but I feel like that's when I want to know what happens. Like, okay, we took an hour and a half to get here. That's fine. But now I want another hour. I want to know what happens? You got on the elevator and what's next? So I feel robbed from the romance side of it, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah.
And also I just feel like their chemistry is so much better in You've Got Mail. I feel like it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's so much more genuine and snarky and fun and the banter. I just love it. I love it.
That's fair.
Okay.
That's
I contained
that's
myself. I
legit.
held back.
All right, Valerie, do you have another one?
Sure. Are you more likely to read a love triangle or a second chance romance?
Second chance.
How come?
I don't mind the love triangle. I know some readers will just throw the book across the room if they realize that's what's happening. So I'm not that strong about it. I just think between those two, I like second chances. And maybe because there's just something so romantic about people coming back together after growing up or experiencing different things or different hardships. I think it just brings a depth and a maturity to the plot in comparison. And with the love triangle, someone's always hurt. You know, I feel like I have read some that were done really well, but it seems like a lot of times with the love triangle, there's either one of the three people is a total jerk scumbag, and you're kind of judging the girl for even being interested, or vice versa,
Yes.
or it really is good either way. And then this poor sap, you know, doesn't have a happily ever after. So then you want to see his story, you know.
That's so sad.
It's just sad.
It
So
is.
Sweet Home Alabama, I think, is a great example of that, where you loved the guy, you know, he was maybe not exactly right for her, but he was a good guy and you didn't want to see him left at the altar, you know. Oh, goodness.
So sad.
So sad. I just want
Narelle, do you
everybody
have
happy. I want the happily ever after for everybody.
Yes. Yes.
And you want to make sure that you pick the right guy. I get really cranky in a love triangle if I've been going, well, if I choose one of the guys, I want him to win the girl. And when he doesn't, I get really cranky. So the author has to write it in such a way as the reader really does clue into who the right guy is, or it's
Yes.
a very frustrating read. But anyway, all right. So my second this and that is Tex-Mex or authentic Mexican.
Oh, this one's hard. I appreciate both, but if I had to pick, I think I would go with authentic.
Okay.
Especially now that I've learned so many more of these recipes and just the heart that goes into authentic Mexican food. I think it swayed me a little bit more on that side. So as long as there's cilantro, though.
Absolutely, definitely cilantro.
All right. So if we're going to a Mexican restaurant or Tex-Mex, they often have them either. For dessert, do you want flan or tres leches?
That is going to be a big neither.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
Oh
I get really high maintenance with my dessert.
no. Okay. All right. Well, what would you choose?
I would, for the Mexican theme, I would do churros
Okay.
or some kind of, you know, ice cream topped something, like cinnamon ice cream on a sopapilla, that kind of stuff. That would
A
that'd be the vibe.
very American dessert. Not,
Yes.
not
Cinnamon ice
Mexican
cream?
one.
I have never had cinnamon ice cream before. That's the
Oh,
thing, is
no.
it?
Me neither, but it sounds good.
Sprinkled. Yeah, it's just kind of dusted. It's not flavored cinnamon. It's just
Yeah.
kind of dusted, you know, on top
Is
of
it
the
sugar,
dessert.
like the sugar cinnamon?
Yeah.
Is it more a sugary sweet? Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like the fried ice cream where they batter it and fry it and then cinnamon
Oh.
sugar the ice cream? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I can
I'm
see
a flan
Narelle.
girl,
I can see
so
Narelle going off into the kitchen and getting some cinnamon and shaking it on her ice cream bowl.
Yeah, they're thinking, what is wrong with these people?
Except I've only got passion fruit ice cream in the freezer. So I
no,
don't
that would
think
be
it's gonna
weird.
work.
Don't put cinnamon on that.
Well, no, it'd probably go.
You think?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My
Do
family
it,
think
Narelle.
I'm
Do
nuts
it.
if I go and find the cinnamon sugar and shake it on passion fruit.
Do it and report back. Let us know. If you're ill, we'll understand where you went.
If Narelle does not show up next week for our story chats, you'll know what happened.
Yeah, she has food poisoning from cinnamon sugar on passion fruit ice cream.
Oh dear.
It's so funny you talked about the fried desserts because in the book
Mhm.
they have a competition food truck that does it's called Dough Babies.
Yeah.
And they do the fried elephant ears, or where, they have a bunch of different names, but the fried dough with the powdered sugar, and everyone there loves them. So like the characters are sneaking off to go get some, even though they're the competition, So that would be me. That's my Mexican dessert.
That's what you
What's
want.
your
Okay.
county fair food?
It's down the street from the food truck,
There you go. Excellent. All right. I think that puts us pretty close to our time. So do you have any final words that you want to say about Tacos for Two, Betsy?
Just that I hope readers love it as much as I did writing it. Like I said, this one was a tough one to get through because of just the environment of that deadline. And this one also went through some pretty good revisions. And it was the kind where I read the notes from my editor and was like, oh. And then I was like, she's right. She's totally right. And I
hate when that happens.
I know. I had to really dig deeper, and I'm so happy that she made those suggestions because it just was such a win. So I feel like the book is stronger for it. And I just really hope readers love Rory and Jude as much as I do. And the side characters, I got to give a quick nod to the side characters. I don't know how this keeps happening, but my last several books, I feel like my side characters just almost try to take over. They're just so fun and lovable, and they provide a lot of comic relief, and I just love them. So I can't wait for y'all to meet Alton and all the Grady and just some of the friends, and it's good.
For sure.
I love Rory's cousin. I can't remember her name, but I really enjoyed
Hannah.
her character.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun.
Hannah.
Great.
Hannah turned into she turned into kind of my voice of reason character, and I just love her so much. She took me by surprise.
Oh, that's the best. All right. Well, thank you for joining us so much. We really enjoyed reading the book, and we enjoyed having you join us. So, and everybody else who's watching or listening, thank you for joining us at Story Chats. If you read Tacos for Two, which you should, leave us a comment and let us know what you thought. Or if you want to chime in earlier than that, why don't you weigh in on the cilantro debate? Where do you fall? Cilantro, coriander, is it soapy and nasty? Or do you find it delicious? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. You can find us on YouTube or on everything else that you would want to know at inspiromance.com/storychats. And if you do go to YouTube, don't forget to hit the notification bell and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you next time. In the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.